Game week 17 is fast approaching, so let's have a look at some of the best plays to buy this week. But before we get started, make sure you guys leave a like on this video, because trust me, that will be greatly appreciated today, because it has been an absolute struggle releasing this video and recording it. I spent the last 3 hours trying to fix my laptop, but listen, I saw Cena retire on the weekend. There was no way I was retiring my laptop today, and we are here. But anyway, let's have a look at the defenders that are predicted to get the most points in Game Week 17 are Nico Riley first, Senesi second, Mateus Nunes third, Urin Timber, Gavardio, Ruben Diaz, followed by Anderson from Fulham, Lacroix, Virgil van Dijk, Chris Richards, Coyote, Kadioglu from Brighton, probably butchered that pronunciation, and Matty Cash. But anyway, there are two defenders that I want to talk about in particular. And one of them I know is going to surprise a lot of people, and that is Diego Dalot from Manchester United. And listen, I'm not saying Dalot is going to be the best defender to buy in Game Week 17, because that's not the case. But it's just a conversation I really wanted to have regarding Manchester United over the next couple of weeks and Dalot as a prospect over the next couple of weeks. Because listen, Game Week 19, 20, 21, Manchester United go on a run of Wolves, Leeds, Burnley. That is a brilliant set of 3 fixtures. And if you guys haven't watched Manchester United in recent weeks, or let's say the last couple of games, Dalot's obviously returned in all 3 of those games, getting a goal against West Ham, getting an assist against Wolves, and getting an assist against Bournemouth. But for me, like I always say, outcome is not the biggest deal for me when it comes to how I judge players. It's the execution and how they're performing at times, which I like to look at. And I think I've seen a massive improvement in Dalot's game in the final third over the last 3 games, where his execution and intentions in the final third have been a lot better. And there was a report that came out yesterday before the Manchester United Bournemouth game talking about how Dalot has been working with the staff at United to try and improve that aspect of his game. So let me show you something. Over the last 3 games, Diego Dalot has had an expected goal involvement of 0.12 against Bournemouth, 0.35 against Wolves, 0.30 against West Ham. There's only been one other game this season where he's had an expected goal involvement of over 0.12. That came in Game Week 3 against Burnley. So you can clearly see from the data that Dalot has slightly shown an upturn in terms of his expected goal involvement numbers over the last 3 games. So that is something that I think could be very, very interesting to look at, especially the Wolves Leeds Burnley game, because those fixtures are just brilliant to target for any defender. And listen, Manchester United are not the greatest defence, but if Dalot can get himself into those positions to get himself goal involvements, that could be a very, very nice punt to take during that time. But it's something to keep an eye out, just to see how Manchester United perform when obviously Mazraoui, Amad Diallo and Mbeumo go off to AFCON. But it's just something I really wanted to talk about, because I've seen some people looking to bring him in, especially on Twitter in the FPL community. Now, the second name I want to talk about is Trevor Chalobah, because I think Trevor Chalobah has definitely been underrated by, let's say, the FPL community as a whole, because Chalobah now is the second highest scoring defender. He's only got 1 point less than the highest scoring defender, and that is Mark Guay. And let's be honest, I don't think I've spoken about Chalobah throughout the season, and I don't think many of us, I'm guessing, watching this video have Chalobah in their teams. But if you have, congratulations, because the amount of points he's been getting in recent weeks has been incredible. He's gone on a run since Game Week 10 of getting 7, 6, 6, 9, 1, 11, 9. And still, I've seen barely anyone talk about him in the FPL community. However, I always say this, is this the perfect entry point to bring in Trevor Chalobah if people are looking to bring in a Chelsea defender? The answer to that question, in my opinion, is no. Chelsea have Newcastle away next, a very, very difficult game at St James's Park, 12:30 kickoff. Then they go to Aston Villa, Bournemouth, Manchester City. I think the next set of 4 fixtures are probably the perfect time to avoid Trevor Chalobah, even though he's getting all these points. After that, though, Chelsea go on a very, very nice run of fixtures from Game Week 21 to Game Week 27. Fulham, Brentford, Crystal Palace, West Ham, Wolves, Leeds, Burnley. That's when a lot of us will probably be looking to triple up on Chelsea assets, and that's where I'll probably recommend buying Trevor Chalobah. But for now, I'll probably say Trevor Chalobah isn't a void, but is definitely someone to keep an eye on. Let's have a look at the midfielders. So the midfielders that are predicted to get the most points in FPL Game Week 17 are Phil Foden at first, Semenyo second, Bukayo Saka third, followed by Sharda, Bruno Fernandes, Tavernier from Bournemouth, followed by Minte, Cole Palmer, Jorginho Rota, Cherky, Kluivert, Harry Wilson. Well done to anyone that had him in game week 16. And Morgan Rogers. But there are two midfielders that I want to talk about in particular. Those are Semenyo and Sharda, because obviously everyone got 5 free transfers in game week 16. So people are a bit more willing to take short-term punts. And if we're looking at Semenyo and if we're looking at Sharda, those are two great short-term punts. Let's start with Semenyo. Semenyo obviously coming off a goal against Manchester United yesterday. Has Burnley at home next, Brentford away after that, Chelsea, Arsenal, Tottenham. So this is really short-term. You probably want it for the Burnley fixture and maybe you might keep him for the Brentford away game. But Semenyo's data over the last couple games, I think he's been very, very unfortunate not to get more returns. So against Manchester United, he had an expected goal involvement of 0.17 and he scored. Before that, against Chelsea, 0.31, blanked. Everton, 0.41, blanked. Against Sunderland, 0.6, blanked. Against West Ham, he obviously didn't play. He was out for that game. Against Aston Villa, 0.79, blanked. So he has actually not been returning, but his data hasn't been too bad. So listen, it's funny how football works sometimes. The lowest goal involvement in the last 5 games is the game that he obviously returns in, and that is against Manchester United. But overall, Burnley at home is a great fixture. If people want to go there as a short-term punt, it's not horrible. The only thing I would say, if you guys are looking to buy Semenyo is now a 4 yellow cards. And remember, if he receives another yellow card before game week 20, he will be out. So that is something that is very, very important to know, because if you have 2 free transfers and you're looking to bring in Semenyo for 1 week and potentially take him out, I'm not too sure if I would recommend that, because you never know. Another issue might pop up that you think might be a bit more serious, but Semenyo could be suspended for the Brentford game if he gets a yellow card in the Burnley game. So that is just something that you guys have to think about. How much risk appetite do you guys have? Because listen, that Burnley at home game is obviously a phenomenal fixture. The next person I want to talk about is Kevin Sharda, because Kevin Sharda, he has Wolves away next, and Wolves at home are not good. They haven't won a game all season, and at home, you can understand the pressures really on these Wolves players. The Wolves fans are obviously not happy with the current ownership situation at the club. So this could be a brilliant fixture for Brentford to obviously score a couple goals in. However, Kevin Sharda's data hasn't necessarily been the best so far this season. Obviously, he was suspended against Leeds. But if you look at it, 0.24 expected goal XG. Semenyo nearly higher by 0.1. That is a big, big difference. So that is just something that you guys have to think about with Kevin Sharda. Another thing I would say is, I think Kevin Sharda is an interesting sort of player where we saw it last year in FPL, where he's a bit streaky at times, but when he does get in that run, he can go big. I think last season there was a point where he got there was a game where he got over 20 points, I think it was. Kevin Sharda has that capability where you can obviously score a couple goals, get an assist. So that is something that if you are going to go with a short-term punt, I do like. But at the same time, Kevin Sharda this season hasn't really got going from a goal involvement point of view, in terms of his last return was actually game week 11 against Newcastle, where he scored. Since that point, obviously he was suspended for the Leeds game, but he hasn't really got any goals or assists. So that is something that you might want to think about, because listen, people love form, but sometimes form goes out the window when the fixture's this good against Wolves. So just think about that. Also, we do expect Dango to be missing for this game. Obviously gone off the AFCON. How does that Brentford attacking lineup look without someone like Dango, who's a great 1v1 threat, who's also great at winning penalties, just great at causing damage in the final third? Maybe Sharda, you might look at Sharda, might have to take a bit more responsibility. You might get more from him. So that is something to think about. These are 2 good 1 week punts though, if you do want to take it. Another one that I do like is Cherki. We do expect Docker to be out. Cherki's minutes over the next couple games could be very, very good. And obviously, game week 17, they have West Ham at home. What an entry point for him it could be into your sides. But anyway, let's have a look at the attackers. So the attackers that are predicted to get the most points in game week 17 are Erling Haaland at first. No surprises there. Great triple captaincy option. Mateta, Thiago, Danny Welbeck, Alexander Isak, followed by Raul Jimenez, Ivan Nilsson, Watkins, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who keeps scoring right now, Woltemade, João Pedro, Ekitike, and Strand Larsen. But there are 2 forwards that I want to talk about in particular, one of them being Ekitike. Listen, 2 13-pointers in a row. People are obviously going to be looking at him. His next 3 fixtures are brilliant. Tottenham away. Tottenham are not good at home. Wolves at home. Leeds at home after that. That is a very, very nice set of 3 fixtures, especially if you want a short-term punt. Salah's gone to AFCON. Gakpo's injured. Ekatike is the most informed Liverpool attacker right now. We know Alexander Isak will still get some minutes because, listen, they spent so much money on him. They're going to eventually want some sort of return on their investment. But at the same time, the way Ekatike is playing right now, there's just no way he gets dropped. Another thing is, we did see in the Inter Milan game, Arne Slot did favour that 2 up top striker formation. Ekatike and Alexander Isak can obviously play together. On the weekend, we didn't see that. He started with Ekatike up top. Alexander Isak, who apparently was carrying a little knock going into the game anyway, was on the bench. And it almost seemed like Liverpool, they changed, let's say, how they set up in terms of there was no natural wingers on the football pitch. There were 5 midfielders. And I think the impact that Curtis Jones is making in that Liverpool side is incredible in terms of just giving Liverpool a bit more control, a bit more guile in that midfield. And listen, that's obviously going to help someone like Ekatike up top. Ekatike's underlying numbers are very, very strong. Over the last 2 games, 0.83 expected goal involvement against Brighton, 1.02 against Leeds. And listen, I feel like with some players, XG don't matter. Because the quality of finishes that Ekatike can produce are ridiculous. That first finish against Brighton, it almost seemed like he had 2 touches by just taking 1 step and the ball was in the air. It was a ridiculous finish by Ekatike. So listen, Ekatike is a brilliant, brilliant buy. And listen, I know Isak will probably take some minutes. I know Ekatike is probably not guaranteed 90. But at the same time, those fixtures there are there to target. So I don't mind it. And listen, I've been looking at it for my personal team. Can I squeeze Ekatike in? I'm not too sure if I can. But he's definitely someone on my radar. And another person on my radar, and another person that is probably on a lot of people's radars, is Jarrod Bowen. Listen, Jarrod Bowen has a very difficult game against Manchester City away. Could he return? Yes, because listen, those sort of like matchups where there will be space left in behind by Manchester City, Jarrod Bowen can obviously exploit. But we are going into a very, very busy period in terms of fixtures, especially from game week 18 onwards to around game week 21, where there's not much rest for players. But one person that we know is going to play all those set of fixtures is Jarrod Bowen. He is a guaranteed 90-minute man, and that's obviously very, very important during the Christmas period. And he's finding himself in very, very good form. Last game against Aston Villa, managed to pick up 8 points, scoring a goal. Brighton again, before that, he scored and he got 9 points. Jarrod Bowen, as soon as he scores, always rates very, very well in the bonus point system, which is someone that you're obviously going to like. And the fixtures that West Ham are coming up, by the way, not only over the Christmas period, after that are phenomenal. Listen, Manchester City in game week 17 is very, very difficult. After that, they have Fulham at home, Brighton at home, Wolves away, Nottingham Forest at home, Tottenham away, Sunderland at home, Chelsea away, Burnley away, Manchester United at home, and Bournemouth at home. Until game week 27, you can probably say you're happy playing Jarrod Bowen in any of those sort of games, and you know he's going to get 90 minutes. That is a player that, especially over the Christmas period, a lot of people should be looking at to buy. The fixtures are obviously good. And listen, West Ham under Nuno, we have seen a slight improvement in terms of their dynamics offensively. They're obviously scoring a bit more goals than what they did under, let's say, the start of that Nuno regime. So listen, he's trying to settle in, get his philosophy across. It seems like West Ham are responding to an extent, even though, let's say, they lost against Aston Villa, draws against Brighton and Manchester United, not too bad. So he's definitely someone that I'll be looking to buy. Probably not this week, but after that game week 18, Jarrod Bowen should be on a lot of people's Christmas wish list. That's all I'm going to say. And he definitely might be on mine. But anyway, those are 2 midfielders, 2 attackers, 2 defenders that I really, really wanted to talk about for game week 17 and beyond. People that I've seen the FPL community, especially on Twitter, talk about. So listen, make sure you guys like this video, comment your thoughts on the best place to buy in game week 17 and subscribe to the channel.